My name is Olivia Carter, and right now, I'm sitting in the corner office of a software company worth more than the apartment building I grew up in. The morning light pours through the floor-to-ceiling windows, spilling gold across my desk. My silk blouse feels cool against my skin, and the faint hum of the city below is a comfort I never knew I'd grow to love. On my desk sits a fresh latte, still steaming, and beside it, my phone buzzes with a notification that makes my stomach tighten. It's from Mom. We need to talk. It's about the software for Dad's business. For a moment, I stare at the words. My lips curl into the faintest smile, not bitter, not quite smug, just aware of the irony. They have no idea that the very system their business runs on, the one they can't function without, is mine. I lean back in my chair, tracing my finger along the smooth edge of my desk, remembering another desk years ago, smaller, chipped, with a second-hand computer I had begged to keep. The past doesn't usually get to me. I've built walls, glass ones apparently, between who I was and who I am now. But that message, it cracks something open. I glance at my reflection in the window, a woman who learned to survive without their approval, without their belief. And yet, here we are. The roles reversed, the power shifted. I tap my phone, opening the message thread. I type back only 2 words. Come by. They have no idea what's waiting for them. I was 17 when it happened. The Carter household wasn't exactly a place where dreams were nurtured. My dad, Robert, ran a small auto repair shop, and Mom, Janet, handled the bookkeeping. They believed in hard work, but only the kind they understood. My obsession with coding? To them, it was a hobby like knitting or scrapbooking. That second-hand computer had been my lifeline. I'd bought it with babysitting money, spending nights learning JavaScript and Python instead of going to parties. I'd fall asleep with blue light still on my face, my fingers aching from hours of typing. The day they sold it is burned into me. It was a Saturday. I'd just come home from the library when I saw the empty space on my desk. The power cord dangled like a loose thread. "Where's my computer?" I asked, my voice already breaking. Dad didn't look up from the newspaper. "We sold it. You're on that thing too much. It's not healthy," Mom added, "and we need the money for bills. You'll thank us one day for focusing on real life." I remember my hands trembling, gripping the strap of my backpack so hard it dug into my shoulder. My mouth went dry, and I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. That machine had held more than files. It had held my future. I turned away before they could see the tears. In my room, I sat on the bed and pulled out a small silver USB drive from my pocket, a gift from my best friend, Maya, engraved with the words, "Don't stop." I'd been saving my projects there, just in case. And now, just in case had arrived. That night, I made a choice. If they didn't believe in me, I'd believe in myself twice as hard. I started spending every free hour at the public library, using their clunky old desktops until closing time. I skipped outings, stayed up late with borrowed laptops, taught myself how to code faster, cleaner, better. Every no I got from them became fuel. They thought selling my computer would stop me. All it did was light a fire they couldn't put out. The library became my second home. I knew every creaky floorboard, every flickering bulb, every computer that froze if you clicked too fast. It didn't matter. I was there when they opened, and there until the staff gently reminded me they were closing. It was during one of those late evenings that I met Evelyn Hart, a middle-aged woman with streaks of silver in her hair and a laptop sticker that read "Code like a girl." She caught me muttering to myself while debugging. "You're not a student here, are you?" she asked. I shook my head, embarrassed. "Just trying to build something." She leaned over, glanced at my screen, and smiled. "You've got an eye for structure. Ever thought about working in software?" That was how it started. Evelyn was a senior developer at a mid-sized tech firm. She invited me to shadow her, then offered me small freelance gigs, cleaning up code, building tiny tools for internal use. She didn't care that I was 17 or that I worked out of a library. She only cared that I delivered. It wasn't easy. There were nights I stared at error messages until my vision blurred, mornings when my fingers were still stiff from typing. I skipped birthdays, ignored texts, and lived on instant noodles. By 19, I'd saved enough to buy my own refurbished laptop. By 21, I'd built my first app, a scheduling tool for small businesses. It didn't just work, it solved problems Evelyn's clients complained about constantly. She pushed me to release it, and to my shock, it sold. That first sale, $79.99, felt like $1 million. But I didn't tell my parents. I'd learned by then that they didn't value things they didn't understand. When they asked what I was doing, I'd say, just some side work. I posted nothing flashy on social media, just vague updates. The app grew. I added features, hired one part-time designer, then another developer. Our client base expanded from our town to cities across the state. Eventually, we rebranded into NovaWorks Software, sleek, simple, dependable. By 25, we had corporate clients, steady revenue, and a small but dedicated team. Evelyn became my business partner. We signed our first six-figure contract the same month I moved into my high-rise apartment. Still, my family had no idea. Until now. Because the software my parents were trying to buy for Dad's shop, the one they needed to keep up with modern bookings, invoicing, and customer management, was NovaWorks. And I was NovaWorks. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. I'd asked my assistant, Jordan, to show my parents in when they arrived. I could already hear Mom's voice echoing faintly down the hallway, brisk, a little impatient, like she had a million better things to do. Dad's deeper tone followed, gruff and businesslike. They stepped into my office and froze. This is yours? Mom's eyes swept over the room, the wall of glass behind my desk revealing the skyline, the framed patents and tech awards, the minimalist furniture with clean lines in oak and white. I gestured toward the seating area, a soft leather couch with a small table topped with fresh orchids. Have a seat. Dad lingered near the door, glancing at the company logo on the wall, NovaWorks Software, as if trying to connect that didn't quite make sense. So, I said lightly, crossing one leg over the other, I hear you need our software for the shop. Mom smoothed her skirt. Yes, well, we were told you're the CEO. But surely you have, a manager or someone we can work with on pricing. It's a small business, Olivia, you know that. I folded my hands in my lap. There's no one else to talk to. I am the owner. I'm also the one who wrote the original code. The silence that followed was almost comical. Mom blinked twice. Dad's jaw tightened. You, he said finally, like the word didn't quite fit in his mouth. Me. I let the moment breathe, watching the weight of it sink in. All those years they thought I was wasting time, all those times they dismissed my work, and here they were, needing exactly what I had built. Your software is good, Dad admitted reluctantly. We've tried others. Nothing runs as smooth. Thank you, I said, my tone even. We designed it for efficiency and reliability. It's why companies like yours depend on it. Mom crossed her arms. So, what does that mean for us? I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. It means you'll get the same options as any other client. Standard rates, standard contract. The difference is, this time, I'm not the one asking you for something. You're asking me. A faint flush rose in Mom's cheeks. Dad looked down at his hands. I wasn't cruel. I didn't gloat. But I also didn't rush to make them comfortable. I wanted them to feel the truth of this moment. This office, this company, I said quietly, exists because you sold my computer when I was 17. You thought you were shutting down a hobby. All you did was give me a reason to prove I didn't need your approval to succeed. They didn't say a word. The sound of the city outside, distant car horns, the faint hum of traffic, filled the room. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. We'll think about the contract. I smiled faintly. Take your time. But know this, I built NovaWorks to last. Whether or not you sign with us, we'll be fine. The question is, will you? The weight of my words lingered as Jordan returned to escort them out. I stood by the window, watching them leave the building, their figures small against the backdrop of the city. For the first time, I realized I wasn't chasing their acknowledgement anymore. I already had everything I needed. They didn't call for 3 days. I half expected them to ghost me out of pride, but on the 4th morning, Mom's number lit up my phone. Her voice was careful, polite. We've reviewed the contract. We'd like to move forward. If the terms can be adjusted a bit. I could hear Dad faintly in the background, murmuring something about margins and expenses. I took a slow sip of coffee before answering. We can talk adjustments. But there are conditions. Conditions? Mom repeated, as if the word were foreign in this context. Yes, I said. First, you'll sign a 3-year contract at the standard rate. No family discount. You run a business and so do I. Second, you'll implement the system fully. No cutting corners. No ignoring updates. Dad's voice came louder now, indignant. That's just good business, sure, but... I cut him off gently. Third, you'll acknowledge, to me and to yourselves, that this company I built is legitimate. No more calling it a hobby. No more brushing off my work like it's cute or temporary. The line went quiet. I let the silence stretch, not to be cruel, but because I wanted them to feel the weight of those words. Mom finally said, "And if we agree to all that? Then I'll personally oversee your onboarding," I replied. "You'll get priority support. And you'll have access to features that will make your shop run better than it ever has." There was another pause, this one heavier, tinged with something almost like humility. "You've built something impressive," Dad said at last. "Didn't think." I heard Mom nudge him. He exhaled. "Didn't think you could do it without us." "I could," I said softly. "And I did. But I don't want to see you fail. That's why I'm offering these terms instead of walking away." When the paperwork came through later that afternoon, their signatures were there. No edits. No notes. Just signed, scanned, and sent back. I printed the contract, smoothed it out on my desk, and signed it with a steady hand. The girl they underestimated was gone. The woman in her place ran the company they now depended on. And for the first time in years, the balance between us felt honest. A month later, I visited the shop. The air smelled like motor oil and coffee, just like it had when I was a kid, sitting in the corner with my computer while Dad worked. Only now, the shop floor was quieter. The chaos was gone. The new booking system displayed neatly on a monitor by the front desk, showing appointments color-coded and efficient. Mom looked up from behind the counter. "It's easier now," she admitted. "Customers like getting text reminders. We're not double booking anymore." Dad was at the back, printing an invoice. "Takes me half the time it used to," he said without looking at me. But his tone carried something unfamiliar, not pride exactly, but respect. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. Later that night, back in my apartment, I opened my desk drawer and took out the silver USB drive. The engraving, "Don't Stop," had faded a little over the years. I ran my thumb over the words, remembering the 17-year-old girl who sat on her bed, gripping it like a lifeline after her parents had taken away her computer. She didn't know how, but she knew she wouldn't give up. And now, every contract signed, every client on board, every award on my wall was proof that she hadn't. My parents would never be the type to gush about my success. That was fine. I didn't need their validation anymore. The satisfaction came from knowing I had built something real, something that mattered, and that they, in their own way, had been part of the reason it existed. I placed the USB back in the drawer and closed it softly. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, stepped out onto the balcony, and looked at the city lights below, glowing, shifting, alive. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or flashy. Sometimes it's the quiet power of knowing you made it, and that the people who doubted you now rely on you to keep their world running. I smiled to myself, the cool night air brushing against my skin, and whispered the words I wished someone had told me back then. "You didn't stop. And you never will."